A little break for a while because world champion and Olympic rowers Gary and Paul O'Donovan popped into studio yesterday around the launch of FBD Insurance's sponsorship of Team Ireland. The sponsorship will come into effect immediately until the end of 2020, running until the end of 2020, and encompasses all of the Olympic Federation of Ireland's activity, both in Ireland and internationally. An exciting partnership for both FBD Insurance and the Olympic Federation of Ireland, illustrating FBD Insurance's commitment to local communities from which Olympic heroes emerge. Here's how we got on with Gary and Paul O'Donovan. Delighted to say Paul and Gary O'Donovan join us in studio. Lads, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much.
I'm not sure were you complimenting us on our memorabilia, but we were having a conversation about it anyway. You're not too big into your memorabilia or too sentimental about some of the stuff you've used, from what I can gather.
Not hugely, no. I think you just kind of get on with it, to be honest. And
maybe when we're old and retired and trying to find our old kit, we might reminisce on it then, but at the minute, not so much.
It's noticeable our lack of rowing equipment in here at the moment. Like, I'm not suggesting anything, but we do accept all donations here.
The oars and boat might be a bit big to get in here, but...
Yeah. You were saying that you've had some very...
There's a really nice picture on the wall up here. Look, you can see there's just three of us in it, two of us now. It's like one of those motion pictures. It's a bunch of rowing memorabilia. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but...
Yeah, you're right, actually. I can see it on myself. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I guess the first thing to say is congratulations, welcome home. How does it feel to have won it together? I guess it's a different experience, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fine altogether. Yeah. You don't think about it much, to be honest. Everyone's like, how does it feel? And
yeah, like at the time it's fierce exciting, you know, and you're going like you're building up to it all week. You're racing in the final, you're going through all your preparations, and then you're going to execute the race. And once it's done, it's like overwhelmingly exciting.
You'd be a bit excited there after about an hour and a half or something, and then you just kind of
you do
forget
the
about
podium,
it.
you have to go straight. I spent 2 hours sitting in a room doing the drug test, and then straight after that, then you have to go back and take the riggers off the boat, put the boat in the bag, load it on the trailer.
Yes, because you did all that.
And
Good man.
well, I had to go and take a pee, like give me a break, and then but then you go back to your hotel, and it's like time to pack the bag and get in the airplane and come home and stuff. So like it all just dies down really, really quick, and you get home then, and you're just, you know, there was a fierce excitement again at the airport, but at that stage we were wrecked because we'd been travelling for 12 hours and 2 flights and a layover and the whole lot, and you're just like, I just want to go home to bed.
Yeah. I'm sure you were out the night before as well, like, so you would have been very wrecked.
Oh yeah.
Wrecked.
Yeah, big night out the night before the final, so that worked in our favour then when the Norwegians, one of them didn't show up. But I know we weren't out at all. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that many people actually believe that.
So am I, yeah.
On this show, like, I think it's given like the people understand.
Yeah.
We didn't go out the night before the World Championship final.
Some people just haven't a clue about
the amount of people that legitimately think we went out on the piss the night before the final.
Really, yeah?
We've put everything in our lives this year towards this one day, and we're going to go out in the tear.
17 years of rowing, like.
But what would happen, out of interest, if you did go out the night before? Like, have you ever done that? Got in the water with a little bit of a sore head?
Now and again in training, like,
racing,
but you wouldn't really for racing.
Even training, I'd imagine it'd just be hell. It's not worth it.
Yeah, like usually if you're going out with your friends, like if we go home to Skibbereen and we're heading out with the lads, we usually try and time it into it if we have a day off. So like we try and take a day off once a week or once every second week, and you try and time your social nights or whatever with the day off.
It's difficult, and then sometimes the timing doesn't work out, and you're just trying to make sure the coach doesn't find out.
Yeah.
He always knows, but you're not going to be recklessly slower. Like, we'd still be somewhere in the pack, but you'd be unlikely to win it anyway if you did go on the tear.
But we won't test that hypothesis anyway.
No, probably best not to do so. Like, it's just striking though how sometimes the rowing calendar, even just from kind of our outlook on it, looking from the outside in, is sometimes a bit strange. Like, the obvious example is 2016, the way you had to come straight back to this side of the world for the World Championships after that, with little time to rest in your laurels and even less time to actually go and have a few casuals to celebrate.
Well, that's the thing. Well, in Rio, I think I went out. I was there for 2 nights after the final, so I went out those 2 nights and then went and started racing then the following week in Rotterdam, and you got on fine, and you just... obviously, they weren't reckless nights out like that. You're on the floor, which is a silly thing to do anyway. You try and avoid that, regardless of being in sport or not. But you recover pretty quickly from it if it's kind of a sensible night, you know.
Yeah. Just thinking about this, like watching the World Championships recently, it kind of struck me that 2016, I'm not sure that you feel the same way, but I think anybody who was supporting anybody in the Irish team in any sport in the Olympics would have been kind of feeling that this is as good as it gets, because we don't get to enjoy people competing for the podium consistently in Olympic events. So I think naturally, I after Rio thought this is as good as it'll get, and it's great. But did you feel that at the same time? Do you feel that you're closer to your peak now than you were in 2016?
Well, we're always in ourselves like confident and optimistic, but you know, we did the Olympics and you're like, that was a pretty good year, that was probably the best year. Paul won the World Champs, we had a load of boats in the final at the World Championships in Rotterdam, we had under-23 crews in the finals, and we're like, that was a really successful year. It'd be hard to top that now. Then the following year we got 2 bronze medals at the under-23 World Championships. We got Paul,
3 European medals.
3 European medals at the senior level. At the World Championships, Paul was first, at the pair was first, and Denise was sixth, and Sunita was fourth. And then you're like, geez, that was a pretty good year now. I mean, to be hard to do any better than that. And then we come along this year, and
two Olympic category boats won the gold medals, and
4 boats in the finals at the World Championships.
Final,
we have an under-23 world champion pair. We have an under-23 world silver medalist lightweight quad. We have a heap of more boats that are in. We've got 4 boats in qualifying positions. If they maintain their positions going into next year, they're in Olympic qualifying positions. And you're just like, well, how the heck are we going to? Does it get any better than this? And each year, like, the athletes are just getting more and more confident, more and more belief, and
more experience.
More experience, and more athletes are. It's not just like a handful of athletes are getting confidence and belief. More athletes are buying into this pool of success, and they're all kind of just channeling it from each other. And I think we're learning from each other. I think a lot of the younger guys are learning from us as well. Like, I mean, we've got a lot of knowledge, and we're traveling the world and meeting new people and meeting Olympic champions and multiple world champions, and we're talking to them, and we're trying to bring home that knowledge and feed it into the system, and feed it into the young athletes, and feed it to the coaches as well. And I think, you know, Dominic's doing a great job of proving like that. I think Dominic's one of the first Irish coaches that Rowing Ireland have employed in years and years and years, and he's like, I think, you know, I've always said that if the athletes have the belief and the confidence to go on be successful on an international stage, why can't the coaches do it? And you know, we're kind of proving that it's possible, and I think the coaches at home are becoming more and more independent and showing belief that they're good enough to bring the athletes to success as well.
Yeah, you're almost enabling them as such, that you were kind of the proof that Dominic was good enough, sort of thing.
Yeah.
He must have felt not only delighted for you, but a real sense of confidence in himself.
Of course, yeah. Absolutely. But he never doubted himself either, you know. I mean, when we qualified, he was like, right, we'll go on now and we'll do well. We'll work hard for the year. And we were like, yeah, we'll go and do it. And there was no question of it being anyone else other than Dominic.
Yeah.
He never questioned him. He never doubted himself, and he never doubted us. And we never doubted ourselves, and we never doubted him. And like, you know, I think he's just showing that like Irish coaches can be good, and there's no reason why they can't be.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned they're going abroad and like learning things and passing them on to other people in Irish rowing. What sort of things are you learning?
To be honest with you, not a whole pile.
Basically, there's no real secret in the whole thing. And like the New Zealanders and Australians and Norwegians, they're all doing very, very similar things to what we are. Say we might do 5-minute pieces, they might do 4-minute pieces. They're just tiny little
concept is the same,
like that, and then just a huge kind of volume of long, steady kind of mileage then around it. Some of them do 8s and win races. Some of them don't do 8s and win races. So there's just lots of different ways to do it. But I think you see a lot of them in Australia now have kind of centralised their system. So a lot of them are not able to go to college, and New Zealand is kind of that way. So what you're seeing is just
quick turnover.
Yeah, quick turnover of athletes. So they're just kind of getting in there for one cycle, and then at the end of that, whether they get the result or not, they're like, Jesus, I'll have to go and do something now with my life, or else I'm really going to be left behind in your early 30s or something. Whereas
then you go talk to like the nations from Norway and Denmark, the smaller countries that are very similar to ourselves, the Dutch, and they're big on like let the athletes
go to university,
get a part-time job and do their training. Yeah. And like ourselves, like, you know, we were studying. I done my final exams in CIT in May before Rio. Granted, I went part-time, but I still was able to study and develop. And Paul's back in college now doing his post-grad degree and stuff. But you know, it allows for a greater longevity in the sport, where you'd see like the bigger countries that are just centralising their programs and forcing athletes to just row. they just get quick turnover. But then I think they have the ability to do that because they're bigger countries and they've got greater numbers and
bigger
greater membership
and bigger funding and stuff like
but
that.
like
If you operate in that system,
could we? Probably could for a while, yeah.
It'd be difficult, but I don't think we'd have been able to do the studies that we have done and just keep looking to the future and try and get to as many Olympics as possible or that we want to do, you know.
yeah.
But the fundamental principles of the rowing training, like for the 2,000 metre race, is standardised pretty much all over the world with to tiny little differences. And, you know, that's how, like, we're actually just learning and we're coming home and we're telling the athletes, like, what we're doing is no different to what the Kiwis are doing. It's just they've got it on a greater scale. They've got more athletes and more people buying into it. I'm like, if you do what we do, it's the same as what the Kiwis do and you can be successful. And surely we're seeing our under-23s and our juniors are improving year on year. And when I was racing at under-23s, I was in a double with Sheahan, and we finished 10th and 12th, and our under-23s are finishing 1st, 2nd and 5th in the lightweight men's categories. And again, we're just like channeling this knowledge down, and they're all buying into it and believing, right, this is the right way to do it.
When you go abroad, is this sort of a similar situation to the environment that you were nurtured in, that it is sort of remote areas here and there with a really hard-working community that are very passionate about this one thing, with no airs and graces really about them, but ultimately that leads to an absence of ego, which leads to a dedication that will lead to success? Or is it just really hyper-intensive sort of?
To be honest, you see absolutely everyone from every walk of life, really and truly, like, you know, you get people coming from a working class background, you get people who are coming from really wealthy families, but the beauty of it is, like, they're all coming into, say, this one rowing club somewhere, you know, you might have, and they're just equal, you know, everyone's the same. They still have to go out and do, what is it, like 30 to 40 kilometres a day, 8,000 kilometres a year. They still have to lift the weights in the gym, and it's just an interesting dynamic then as well, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I did want to briefly just chat to you about your postgrad degree. It's in medicine. That's a bit of a kind of branch out. You were doing physio, was it?
Yeah. So I did physiotherapy. So I suppose in school I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do, and I was kind of a bit interested in sports, and I was like, oh yeah, physiotherapy, I could do that and end up down the sports route then with that. But once I got into it then and started going through the years and the modules and all that, I just took a severe turn against the sports physio. But we had to do 1,000 hours of clinical placements in hospitals and places like that. I just really began to take an interest in what the doctors were doing, and I said, geez, yeah, I might give that a go. And then so I sat GAMSAT exams then and ended up in UCC, and they're actually giving me a Quercus scholarship, so they've been kind of accommodating there with helping me get registered, because I was away on training camp when all that was going on and missed the first 2 weeks as well. And probably end up, say, there probably might be other clashes later in the year with regattas and exams or whatever, so it's kind of good to know that they're supportive as well of the whole sports side of things, which I suppose you do kind of need that, and it's good diversity for them as well as myself. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to the challenge as well, and it's another outlet as well that you're not just kind of totally consumed with the rowing, and because myself and Gary kind of spend so much time in the boat together, it's nice to get a break away from it and go and talk to some other people and do something else.
It's kind of important.
It is, and I think just for after life or later in life, when the rowing's finished, we won't be able to do it forever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, so it's nice to know that you'll kind of have...
You can try though.
I'll certainly try. The interesting thing there that you mentioned, I think it must have been in that Red Bull mini documentary that was made about you earlier in the year, that I think it was you, Paul, that said you're happier away from civilization or something like that. It was obviously a tongue-in-cheek comment about Skibbereen, about the fact that, you know, someone in the video says that, you know, there's no big buildings here, there's no clamour, or there's kind of no airs and graces really around the place. And the line that being happier away from civilization is quite an interesting one, because what you're talking about there is actually doing that thing where when you're in your own zone, but then making a very big effort to actually get back into civilization and have a footprint in there as well. It's some balance to strike, isn't it?
But I guess in a way it's each to their own as well. Like, Skibbereen is home for us, like, and if you talk to anyone in the world that leaves home, they always want to go home no matter where it is. Yeah. And you could talk to someone who has moved to Skibbereen, might love it, but they always talk about going home to wherever that is. And Yeah, it's just, I think it's like the nature of human beings. Like, you're fond of where you grew up and where's home. That's where you want to be.
I do wonder, did people at home ever get a bit worried that fame might have changed you in any way after 2016?
I'd say they're hugely concerned about it.
Hugely.
Yeah.
They're all worrying about it at home. They're all watching this podcast.
And biting their nails and I think
looking
Gary
down
said
on
there,
us.
it's getting, look at the way Gary's wearing his cap there, the fame's got the better of
Wouldn't
it.
have done that before you.
No. I know they're good in fairness, and they're very
wouldn't let us
supportive.
anyway,
But, I know they keep us grounded as well.
To the corner bar, go up to Minahan's there, and they wouldn't be long dragging you back down to earth anyway. Like.
I wonder, like the whole dealing with thing, it kind of seemed to come very, very naturally to you, and I know you've spoken at length about it. Like, you've always been interviewed about the interviews that you've done about Graham Norton and things like that.
It's an interesting concept, isn't it?
Interviewed about the interview.
Ask questions about the questions you answered.
Now, I'm sure Graham Norton will have you on to ask you about this interview and being in this set as opposed to being in this set now. I'm sure this is the next big step up for you. But it is quite a strange thing that there has been such a microscope on how you've been viewed, isn't it? I don't really recall anybody with that sort of scrutiny.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, all right, that sometimes people nearly forget that we actually raced at the Olympics and they just kind of think about the interviews, whereas we just try and forget about that type of thing and get on with the rowing because that's what we enjoy best. But
I guess,
it has opened up a lot of opportunities for us.
Like, in hindsight, when you look back, it opened up a lot of doors and created opportunities, and it's given us a scope to promote rowing. So we're getting these opportunities to come in here to this show, discuss our sport and put it out there to the public and expose it to people, so that then in theory, hopefully some kids will listen and they might say, oh, I'll give rowing a go, or some parents will listen and say, oh, why don't you go try rowing? And then hopefully 8, 9, 10 years time you'll start seeing greater and greater success in a bigger rowing team and rowing just being a bigger sport in Ireland,
And that's the real success of it all, isn't it?
It is. I think, say, the likes of FBD now have started to realise that. So they came on board with us just after Rio. And we've been working as ambassadors for them. But then, say, after the whole summer we've had, where there's been loads of medals across a load of different sports, they were like, hey, what can we do now to, I suppose, try and capitalise on that as well and give it another boost. So they've kind of partnered with the Olympic Federation now of Ireland, and they've just launched a campaign today to announce that sponsorship. So I think...
But even a day like today, there's just been an opportunity for a whole bunch of different athletes
to get a platform
to expose their sports to the public through all different media platforms. And like Sarah was in here a while ago just before us, and she was telling everyone about her experience and the success they've had at the World Championships. And we're here now, we're telling you about our success at the World Championships, and we had Chloe down at the wherever we were earlier there with all the press and stuff, and she was telling us about their hockey championships, and you're just like, this is just amazing. And then you have to say, like, fair play to FBD and the Olympic Federation for putting this show on for us to do this and give our sports more exposure,
Exactly. Like, I think when we look back on the summer of 2018, if we can call September a part of the summer, it might actually be one of the most important few months that we've seen in Irish sport, because you mentioned it there, the hockey, the eventing. Can't really call
the European Championship was just in August. Well, that kind of multi-sport
exactly
put together, so that gave great exposure as well for the little minority sports.
You wouldn't even count how many medals we won in there. We got a heap of them,
That's it. But the thing is, capitalising on it now, because, like you mentioned, FBD doing great work now in terms of pumping money into it. The government money you get, obviously, you got the exact same grant this year as you got last year, despite the fact that there's more elite rowers. And to be honest, that needs to be looked at a little bit more, doesn't it? There can be a bit more done from the government funding, as well as obviously trying to appeal to as many sponsors as possible.
That's the thing, I mean, but sure, all the sports and everybody across the world just wants more money, really, don't they? So everyone's kind of fighting for a piece of it, and when it's coming from the government, then if they want to push more towards sports, then you're taking away from healthcare or somewhere else in the budget. So it's kind of great then, just say FBD is coming along then, just from the out of the private sector.
What would extra funding do for you, or what is a lack of funding? What has that done this summer? Because you've had a few issues.
Not the word. Like, we had to miss one of the World Cup regattas earlier in the year, but then we had an opportunity. We were invited to go to Henley, which was just 2 weeks after that, so we took that up and got some good racing experience there instead. So we kind of made the best of that situation. And say, if you wanted to throw millions and millions at myself and Gary for the next 2 years, we're unlikely to get any faster in reality, And so what more funding for rowing would would help the rest of the team
create a
evolve,
platform to grow a bigger team,
so that you can just get
without
a bigger
taking away.
fleet of boats. Maybe more coaches, some more training camps for the younger guys, so that they can kind of bridge the gap up into the senior team, and the ones that are a little bit back off the pace, try and push them up into Olympic qualifying places and up then into the medals, rather than say making myself and Gary faster is kind of limited now nearly by this stage. Of course we can get
naturally world champions.
But yeah.
But then like the thing about it is like if this isn't happening and the team gets bigger and bigger, and you want to send more athletes to world championships, the money isn't, the funding isn't there to support it, so you have to compromise something else. And be that like, do you upgrade the new fleet of boats, or do you hold off another year and use the...
Have you got a new fleet of boats?
No, well, there was some propaganda there a while back, and we don't know where it came from, that we were rowing in an old boat. Like, we get a new boat every year from the boat manufacturer.
Right, because I read that it was like 4 years old was the actual...
Yeah, we don't know what that was about.
Nonsense, I didn't really come
but,
that's mad, isn't it? That's,
No, our boat is fine.
But
And say, even if we had a 4-year-old boat, to be honest,
the boats are all the same,
pretty okay.
Yeah.
They're not going to be much slower, but I mean, to give everyone the best chance, some of the guys on the team probably did have a 4-year-old boat, or whatever age you want to call it, but it wasn't brand new, say.
But what we were saying anyway, if you want to send a bigger team, you have to get the money somewhere, so you compromise going to a European Championship, say, to prioritise the World Championship, so then you're minus one World Cup that we're already missing this year because of the growing team. Then you have to compromise something else to get to the World Champs and so on.
That was in the Olympic qualification area as well.
The venue, it's the same venue.
Yeah, so the World Championships are in Linz in Austria next year, and they had
Second
a kind
World
of a
Cup was
test
there.
regatta.
They're going to miss.
What can you do?
But say, I mean, we arrived out to Rio and had never been or experienced that venue before, so it's not the be all and end all. I mean, for sure, it would have been nice to go there.
We raced there in 2013. Paul got a bronze medal at the under 23 World Championships there.
Yeah. So, but just if you want to go and test out hotels and whatnot to make sure everything's up. But I mean, Austria,
we're talking an absolute ideal world scenario here, like where you want to go out, bring the whole team to all the events. Give the whole team the newest fleet of boats, but I mean, this isn't an ideal world, and you still have to get on with it. And I mean, we could sit around for since we started rowing and moan and cry about the facilities and the boats and the oars and the funding and the transport and paying the levies, and we could cry about the whole lot of it if we wanted to. But what good is that? Like, I mean, we still have to get on with it. We still want to win the medal, like, and if we want to win the medal, we have to find a way to doing it.
True, it's great attitude to have. You've been so generous with your time, Paul and Gary. Thank you so much for coming in, and best of luck with the future.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the